This week we read the portion of Toldos, and a part of it discusses Yitzchak uncovering the wells that his father Avram had dug. So basically Avram digs wells, the Plishtim come along and fill them up with earth, and Yitzchak now goes and redigs them. We know that everything we see or we learn about has its spiritual counterpart. So what's the meaning behind the digging of the wells? Avram's divine service is to go and dig into the earth. His job is to go and discover that the earth holds in it living water. In other words, Avram's task is to find the meaning in things. We know that even at the age of 3, Avram was constantly asking questions, was constantly searching for his creator. It is very simple and easy for a person to ignore the realities of this world, passing by them all his life without paying attention to them. Avram isn't like that. He looks all around him and asks questions, digging wells and discovering water within. What's Yitzchak's divine service? We can find it in the words of the pasuk. The verse says, "And Yitzchak dug again the wells that Avram his father had dug." His service is to pattern his actions after Avram's. If you think about it, this is one of the most difficult tasks a person can undertake. To continue, not start anything new. All that Yitzchak does is redig the wells that his father dug and give them the same names his father gave. This is a problem lots of us who grew up in a Jewish home face. To continue the path of those who came before us. You see, if someone has to dig a new well, he lives in a different world, with different sources of inspiration. But for Yitzchak, and a lot of us like Yitzchak, there's no such thing of renewal in one's own right. I'm burdened with digging wells which are not truly new wells at all. Can this really be considered an accomplishment? What does one achieve by simply retreading old ground? On a smaller, more practical scale, let me give you an example. You go to a Torah class, or you attend it for bringing, and you get inspired. So right away, thoughts of change come to your mind. You decide then and there to make a certain resolution. What usually happens, and is normal sometimes to happen, is that after a day or two we give up on the resolution. Why? Simple. Before, when I made the resolution, it was about starting something new in my life, which is exciting. Now it's just about continuing it, which is kind of boring. However, this ability to persist, to continue, is what separates one person from another, one people and another. The true test is if the second generation has the ability to maintain the same energy, inspiration, and enthusiasm, or at least the same pace as the first generation. For the first generation, it's easy to break the mold. To the second generation, it's this routine and decay that pose the real danger. If the second generation can continue the direction of the first, it shows not only on its greatness, but the greatness of the first generation as well. There are people who by their very nature cannot produce children like themselves, even though they may be themselves great Jewish leaders. Take Moses, for example. He did not produce a dynasty of Jewish leaders. Who did? It was Aaron, his brother. For Moses had no sons who could qualify as his successor. Yitzchak's whole essence is his ability to carry God's cause to the next stage in history. And without Yitzchak's ability to produce continuity, Avram would not be Avram at all. Do you know who Enoch was? He was very holy. He was an angel. His son, not an angel. This may be why Enoch is not so famous. In this sense, just as Avraham begets Yitzchak, Yitzchak makes Avram. by giving him relevance and an enduring legacy. This is why a person is judged both according to the deeds he performs in his lifetime and according to the events that he indirectly affects after his lifetime. In other words, if you think about it, even after a person has passed away, the actions of his children and grandchildren can change the image of the person himself. Now this idea of continuing the legacy of Avram, of your father or your grandfather, how are we supposed to do it? The answer is by not being one of the Plishtim. Now what is that supposed to mean? The Plishtim represent the idea of stam. It says that the Plishtim stopped up the wells with earth. Stopped up in Hebrew is sitmum, from the word stam. The Plishtim weren't evil, but they create a reality where everything is covered and everything is insignificant. A man of stam is a man of utter insignificance. You might have heard maybe someone ask, why did you do that? To which a person might reply, stam, I did it. It means there was no thought process involved. So when an important question arises, instead of, taking one side or the other, the Plishtim simply stop up the entire issue at hand. Instead of denying the existence of God, the Plishtim avoid the question altogether. To sum it all up, just in case you were confused, the Plishtim dull and deflate everything they encounter, refraining from lending any special significance to their actions. That's why they stop up wells, the wells that they find in life, refusing to come to grips with the water within them. They don't lock up the wells or poison the wells, because that would be saying there is water there, but we're destroying it. No, they fill it up with earth to deny that there was ever water there to begin with. This attitude of stam, the modern Hebrew equivalent of a shrug, unfortunately can develop within a person. One's inner life is simply stopped up. Like, for example, sand dunes on the seashore. Even if I do nothing to stop up the wells, little by little, time covers up everything. Where once there was a well of living water, now remains only a small hole in the wilderness. The danger here is not that one will fall all at once. It's a gradual, hardly noticeable fall. Life wastes away, and when one finally dies, no one can tell the difference, since he actually started dying a long time ago. We either dry up or we become frozen or stopped up with earth. We need to constantly redig, constant renewal. Find it. You're a descendant of Yitzchak, so continue his legacy. One of the main ways of accomplishing this is by asking new questions. Never be satisfied. Through questions, one can always uncover important ideas and meaning. There was a Chassid who would always ask why. One time, he came to perform the ritual washing of the hands, and the question of why came up. Why am I doing this? What's the meaning behind it? He stood there for 2 hours thinking about it. But after that, every washing of the hands was a total different experience. The point, find the meaning in what you do. Not everyone can break new ground, and not everyone can dig new wells. What we can and must do is take the old wells and rediscover them for ourselves as an entirely new creation.